What up everybody, welcome to the channel. My name's Eric. Make sure you like and subscribe below because today we're going to talk about ultralight backpacking cook setups. I've been on this journey for a little bit, most recently kind of this summer, transitioning from some of the first gear that I ever bought into stuff that is a little lighter, maybe a little more functional for what I'm trying to do. So today we're going to talk about 3 options that I have to lighten your cook setup. This is the first stove I ever bought. It might be the first piece of gear I actually ever bought that wasn't just like a school backpack or my regular old jacket. This is the Jetboil MicroMo. I've had this thing for 8 years. You can tell there's burn marks all over it. I love this thing. It's gone up and down all over the place. I like this so much that I got my brother one for his birthday or when he started backpacking. So, you know, just full disclaimer, kind of a Jetboil fanboy. This is the first thing I ever bought, but as I've done some longer stuff, as I've gotten a little older, tried to lighten up my pack a little bit, I knew that this was one of the first things I was gonna have to think about replacing. This thing is amazing. It is a great stove. Jetboil makes these really awesome products. It's just kind of heavy. If I throw it on here, it's got a fuel can in it, it's at 580 grams, so just a little bit more than I wanted to carry. So everything that we see today, I'm gonna kind of call ultralight. Tough to decide, like kind of draw the line in the sand on what's ultralight and what's not. But for the purpose of this, what I'm gonna look at is any stove that does not have a regulator. So everything we're gonna talk about today is great for boiling water, and that's about, yes.
What time did you eat last?
Right before you got home.
Did she make you eat again?
No, probably not till 2. All right, sorry, new baby. So, where was I? Everything we're gonna talk about today is really great for boiling water. There's no regulator on them, so everything today is really just about dialing up the heat, doing a quick boil on some water, and eating a dehydrated meal probably. One of the things, it's kind of unfair to compare the MicroMo to everything else we've got today because the MicroMo has a regulator on it. Regulator is great if you're looking for a backcountry cook chef setup. Maybe you've got a frying pan or a pot or something and you're gonna dial up and down the temperature. You wanna cook some eggs or fry something in a skillet with a spatula. You're gonna want something with a regulator for that. That's none of these. MicroMo has a regulator, so it's great for that situation, but not really what I do in the backcountry. So important to note that when I go backpacking, all I do is boil water, and I barely do that. I make a dehydrated meal for dinner, and that's it. I love coffee. I drink a ton of coffee. But when I'm backpacking, I don't even heat it up. I just drop my instant coffee into some cold water, shake it up. I'm a very pragmatic coffee drinker. Just if I could just inject the caffeine, I probably would. So for me, all I need to do is boil water. So everything that we're gonna cover today is gonna be just about boiling water. So loving the Jetboil. Was really excited to check out Jetboil's new Jetboil Stash. I've got another video that's a more in-depth review of this, and we can, you can kind of watch that if you're interested in this. So Jetboil Stash is really just a Jetboil ultralight backpacking stove. It's very classic Jetboil. Everything you can see in this, everything's integrated. It's one of the great things about Jetboil. Everything just is kind of right there. It's all streamlined right together. You grab it, you go. It's got the little cup. So the Stash is kind of the same vein. It's got the windscreen kind of built-in windscreen on the bottom. So it's by far going to be the most efficient cook system that we're going to talk about today. I didn't test any of these in wind or not in wind, but just by nature of the screen, the Jetboil Stash is going to boil water a little faster and a little more efficiently. And then it's got the classic kind of Jetboil integration. So it comes with this pot that is 800 milliliters. Lid flips over, locks into place. We'll talk about that in a second because it's kind of an issue. It's kind of cool. The lid itself also doubles as a like fuel can holder, so you can snap your fuel can in there. I don't have one, but you can also fit like a mini Bic lighter in there. None of the stoves that we talk about today have a lighter, so you'll need to carry a lighter. I've never not carried a lighter with me. Even like the MicroMo, still the spark will work and it still lights on its own. But I still carry a lighter with me. So Just important to note, you can put that lighter right in there. And then in it, in the bag, I usually will probably just ditch this bag, but first time I got this out, I actually broke the handle on it. So I try to rip the tag off. So note when you get it with the tag, cut the tag, because it'll break the handle if you just try to rip it off. That doesn't work. But then comes with the burner. As you can see, there's no regulator. It's pretty small. It just kind of unwinds, sort of. There it goes. Kind of unscrews there. It gives you a nice big cook surface. What's cool about it, and if you can see it, the cook surface is grooved out here to match the cup for the stash perfectly. Now you can use anything on here, if you've got a tea kettle or if you've got something different that you want to throw on there, it'll work. It might not work as well as it would with with the stash pot, but that is going to be, you can kind of rattle around and it's going to stay. So pretty cool little thing from Jetboil. I think my biggest gripe for this, it comes with the stand. I usually ditch this. I never take it. I've never been someplace that requires it. Like usually I've got everything set up and I'm sitting there, so I don't really need to carry the stand, kind of extra grams or ounces, however you want to look at it. And this thing's just going to keep breaking on me because it knows that I'm too concerned to let it go. So, all in all, this thing kind of just screws, there we go, screws right in there. That sits right on top. And you've got your lid, classic kind of Jetboil lid. It's got a mouthpiece, couple vents for air and steam to get out. And it's nice, and it's got this handle so everything's locked into place. It's really cool. It comes, let's see, all in, I forget what the weight was, but even with this can, it's at 382 grams, so way lighter than my MicroMo, and a really great backpacking option. Also, what I like is that, with the MicroMo, you're kind of hard pressed not to carry the whole thing. With the stash, if you wanted to lighten up a little bit, you could just carry the burner, and it's at 59 grams. So it's lighter than the MSR Pocket Rocket, which we'll talk about in a minute. Which brings me kind of to some of my concerns, or I don't know, holdups, I guess. This is one of them. We'll get there. This is an 800 milliliter pot. It is marked somewhere on the inside, maybe on the outside, both. It is marked. It's an 800 milliliter pot. This is great if you are someone that likes in the morning to boil water for a dehydrated breakfast and coffee, or if you're making dinner and tea or something like that. I'm not that person. Everything I do, every meal that I make requires 500 milliliters of water, and that's it. So I don't need an 800 milliliter pot. A lot of this exercise is really just cutting out weight that I'm not going to use. So I don't need this whole giant pot. I would actually rather carry this burner with my Tokes 550 because all I'm ever doing is boiling 500 milliliters of water for a dehydrated meal. Everything fits in here kind of nice. The stove, the burner won't fit in there, but I don't have a problem just kind of resting it on top and either putting it in the bag or putting it in the bag for my Tokes 750. So one kind of problem I have, and it's not even a liter. So if you wanted to do 2 meals, you can't actually do 2 meals with this. You're kind of in this awkward in-between state at 800 milliliters. Maybe they had a reason for it. It's just not for me. Because like I said, 500 milliliters of water, that's all I ever do, just over and over, dump it into my dehydrated meal and I'm done. The biggest issue for the stash that I think is, it takes a minute. It's not an issue, but it does take a minute to learn how to put it together. It's nice because they have all the instructions on it, so you're never without it. But once you get it together, you kind of push this lid on, right? It's great that this handle locks into place for when you're cooking. I wish it also locked into place when it was closed. The whole kind of point is this, the lid, the handle folds over, keeps everything nice and tight, but the handle doesn't lock. And once you get a full fuel can and the burner in there, it's a little bit extra weight. So if this is upside down, you can see even just tipping it over, it starts to open. And if you rattle it even just a little bit, it kind of yard sales all the contents of it. So this is sort of an issue with most of my Jetboil stuff. Jetboil, if you're listening, just put a lock on this side. Locked. Give me a lock there, so it locks closed. My MicroMo's so old that the lid doesn't really like stick on anymore. And I just kind of solved that with an additional strap, usually goes around it. So if you're gonna go this route, just get yourself like an extra Velcro strap. It's a little annoying, but you know, kind of do what you gotta do. So when would I use this? I think this is a great, like if I'm in a high wind, if I'm going someplace with a lot of wind, if I'm doing some alpine or some like high elevation backpacking trip or climb, and I know it's gonna be really windy, this is gonna be the most efficient way to boil water. It will be great. I mean, the extra weight, fine, I'll deal with it. I also think that if you're someone that, you know, potentially needs both, you could get this, carry just the burner and the toques when you just wanna go super light and super fast, and carry the Jetboil pot, the stash pot with it when you wanna kind of slow down, or maybe you're only going for a night or two, or maybe you do wanna boil some extra water to make tea or coffee and your meal. So cool product. I think a couple of things that maybe I would look into changing, but I think if you're like as a Jetboil person, I'd be really happy with this. I think it'd be really cool. But yeah, maybe some versatility there if you wanted to just carry the burner, do something different with it. All right, cool. So moving on from the Jetboil, let's talk about the MSR Pocket Rocket 2. This is probably like the quintessential backpacking stove. At least in the circles that I kind of run in, most people have this stove. This is the Pocket Rocket 2, not the Pocket Rocket 2 Deluxe. The Deluxe will have that regulator on it that we kind of talked about it. So this one's a little bit lighter, and it's really just meant for boiling water up and down. And you can see I was kind of fiddling with it and sort of accidentally put it away here, but the arms kind of twist and fold out, gives you this really nice big surface. You know, it's got grooves here, but it's not like the Jetboil that's really integrated for something, which is nice because you can cook a whole bunch of different stuff on here. You could put, you know, I've got this GSI tea kettle that you can throw on there, but most prominently, I'm gonna be working with the Toques 550 pot. These are titanium, these are great, they're super light. And you can see it's got a ton of kind of surface area, or at least like a support area there to hold that pot. So MSR, if you don't know MSR, like, you know, welcome to backpacking, but they are sort of an industry standard. I really like this thing. I think in terms of, you know, things that maybe aren't great about this, if it's not as efficient as a Jetboil system is going to be, it's also, the Pocket Rocket's not as efficient as some of the other wind products that MSR makes. So if you are really worried about efficiency or getting the most life out of your fuel can, if you're going to go long stretches between refuels, it may be worth looking at something like a Jetboil or one of the MSR products. There's also a ton of products out there. Soto makes very similar. Obviously, don't, you know, like light me up in the comments about it being not the same. They're not exactly the same, but I think similar style to this MSR. Really basic, but really, whoops, I'm leaking. Didn't mean to go in that far. So really basic, just kind of bare bones cook stove. Throw your pot right on top of there, and then again, just like with the Jetboil one, make sure you guys can see this. You know, you can throw your fuel can, your small fuel can in there. It won't fit. Let's see, the MSR won't quite fit in there, so you can just throw it on top and either you know, take your bag for the Toques 550 and kind of just put that down in there, kind of just cinch it to keep it in place. Or what I'll kind of often do is take the Toques 750 bag and put it in there to give it, you know, to kind of. So I'll take the Toques 750 bag and slide the 550 in it, and then I'll put my cook stove on top and then cinch it down, and bada bing, it's all kind of right there together. So MSR, yeah, so the MSR one, I think one of the biggest things I like about it, we'll talk about this in a second when we do the BSR or the BRS is this thing is sturdy. Like it's stable. It's not gonna fall apart. You know, again, it's MSR, so you know it's quality. But it's got some weight, it's got some heft. It is at 73 grams, which is more than, you know, the Jetboil one. So a little bit heavier, but really just basic. Like this is gonna boil water for you, no problem. It's gonna boil water every time. You know, again, no lighter, no igniter, so you gotta bring a lighter. But yeah, this is pretty much the gold standard. So if you are kind of not wanting to take any risks, you got the $50 it cost. You could probably buy one stove. You could buy this stove and it'd be the one stove you buy for the rest of your life. And it's a great stove. All right, so last option here is the BRS. I think I said BSR earlier, but this is the BRS 3000. This is on Amazon. I don't even know. I guess this does say BRS on it. It's really just like a Chinese knockoff company. This thing is tiny, 27 grams. This is little, and I think it is $17 or something like that on Amazon. So if you want a budget stove or a super ultralight stove, this is your answer. And I'm struggling as I fiddle to open it, but there it is. A little bit smaller cook service, just kind of worth noting. There's a lot of reviews for this thing on Amazon about how it kind of falls apart or it doesn't support, and there's pictures of people with like a full cast iron tea kettle and the arms are bending. This thing can probably boil maybe 750 milliliters of water, but probably really you just want to use a 550 milliliter pot. It is not meant to cook. It's really meant to boil small amounts of water, and you can even see just like, if I kind of get it on there, it's pretty low profile, pretty small. I think the biggest concern for this one is the wind. Again, I didn't measure the cook times or the boil times. I'd be super conscious when I was using this in the backcountry of getting my pack set up, creating the windscreen, maybe bringing a piece of tin foil to kind of use to shield it from the wind. I think this is a good, you know, ideal conditions type thing. I don't have a ton of concern about it breaking. Again, it feels like it's thin, but like once it's unfolded and locked into place, it feels kind of fine. You know, it's got a low, you know, just talking about not needing the balance thing for Jetboil, and it's gonna fall over on my table. But yeah, it's got a low profile, so I think you're pretty good. It's not like it's gonna tip over in the wind or get top heavy and move around. So again, this thing, 27 grams, if you're going super light, super fast, I think partially also I've been debating and going back and forth about trying a trip without a stove and just cold soaking meals. And I feel like if I brought this out and it broke or it failed or it wouldn't light and I couldn't get it to go or something, then like that would be a good chance for me to try a cold soaked meal. But also kind of a perk, I guess, if you were into trying something like that. You can toss it in here in your totes, flip it the right way, and it'll all kind of squat down right inside there. So really small, excuse me. There it goes. So really small, really small amount of weight, or it takes a really small amount of space in your pack. 292 grams, super light, probably the lightest thing that you're gonna find, or lightest setup. You could even probably, you know, ditch the bag, and you're 279, so you could find like a strap or a rubber band or something to hold that in place. Again, I've only used this in my garage. No professional review on it, but seems to work really well. Boils water. It's not super efficient, I think should be the other thing that I mentioned. You know, if you're doing 4 or 5 nights and all you're doing is boiling water a couple of times, probably a great stove. But if you are concerned at all about, you know, having enough gas to, you know, to make it to your next refuel spot, or you don't want to carry a bigger gas can, then maybe something to consider, because it's not super efficient. But again, if you can kind of surround it, put your pack up by it, block some wind, it's gonna work a lot better. All right, so wrapping up, I think Jetboil stash, if you kind of need a multifunctional thing that's going to be super efficient, it's going to get you through the wind, you could carry just the burner. Everything's rattling around in here because I just put the handle back in there. But a really great stove for that. I think, you know, if you really like the efficiency and the sort of, I don't know, engineering of the Jetboil, however everything's fit back in there together, this is a great option. That's what led me to my MicroMo. If you are looking for a regulated stove, the MicroMo is an awesome stove. This one will be kind of retired to my truck. Will probably be used more for camping with my little guy or making hot chocolate or something like that. But any of those Jetboil products I think are really great. If you wanted to go with a stash, I would also maybe recommend picking up a smaller pan or smaller pot, and as well as like a strap to cover the top of it. MSR, you know, obviously, like if you're concerned, you want to buy one stove, it's probably the MSR Pocket Rocket. I don't know, for my money, one of the best stoves that's out there. Probably last you a lifetime, and you know, it's only $50. It's not horribly expensive, but yeah, it's a great stove. And then if you really kind of want to get ultralight and drop 50 grams, the BSR or equivalent, there's a few of these models that float around on Amazon. I think BSR is the most popular one, but you can find them from other kind of knockoff, you know, distributors. So I don't know if this is a bridge too far in terms of like reliability and efficiency, but it's really just like a Bunsen burner that you used in like high school chemistry class, or like, God forbid, college chemistry class if you did that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be carrying this a lot or not. I'll probably test it a couple times, but I think you got to be okay with either eating a cold meal or just, you know, like, I don't know, I eat dry ramen all the time anyway. So, but yeah, maybe be okay with this not working. All right, otherwise drop a comment below if you got any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe so you are well aware when the next video comes out. See ya.